So this is the window that you will see after you set up the workspace, and I selected PHP, Apache, the third template from the bottom of the input screen. And so your container, your VM, is not currently running. So you need to start your VM, and you start your VM by pressing the Run project at the top. Probably I didn't click it enough. Okay. And then it will launch your virtual machine, actually your container, if I want to be technically correct. And then by default, the web server Apache 2 will be running with inside your virtual machine. And you have one PHP file. And if you open up the PHP file, this is the text. Hello world from Cloud9, and maybe just change the text to adding a new entry there on September 20th. Okay. And so once you run the Apache server, you will see the new URL. So you can just use your browser. I don't have to do it from my machine. So if you try to use that URL on your browser, then you will see the text "Hello World" from Cloud9. Okay, just to show you that I'm not running it inside my Chrome, I'm going to launch my Firefox. So these are two separate browsers, and then I'm going to copy the URL from here, and then copy, and if I paste the URL to my Firefox, then I will see the welcome page. And of course, you need to open the app, and then you will see the text. You will see the hello world output from there, which is the same string that you see in my PHP. So of course, you can also directly go to the PHP script by typing the name of the PHP script to the URL and hello world PHP. So I can say hello -world PHP. Oops, missing one. PHP, and you will see the same output. Okay, so in how many seconds? 15 seconds, you have a web server running with PHP installed. No setup required. So, question about running PHP. So, and as I pointed out in my lecture on Monday, I want to emphasize the use of PHP to access your database. So then the next step for us is to enable MySQL. Okay, and again, I assume that everyone here know how to write SQL query. I'm not going to teach database in this class, and I just want to show you how to set up my SQL. So down here, you will see three separate tabs. Immediate, and then the Apache log, and the leftmost is your bash terminal. So to start the MySQL, you just say MySQL control start. Okay, that's it. And wait for a second. Done. In 2 seconds, you have MySQL running. Okay. Now with MySQL, so you can log in locally by typing MySQL. So how many of you have used MySQL from a previous class? Okay, so when you log in, you have when you use the MySQL shell, you need to use your username. Okay, otherwise if you don't use the username, then MySQL will assume that you're trying to log in as root, and then you need to use your username. And in our case, your username is your login name to Cloud9. But if you forget your username, there's a variable. I think it was C9 user. Yeah. So C9 underscore user will be your user ID. So you can say MySQL. I want to log in as myself, C9 underscore user, and by default you got a database unprotected, no password required. So if you just type MySQL minus u your ID, then it will take you to the MySQL shell, and I can look at how many databases I have in here by typing show databases. Show databases, missing an S. So I have 5 C9, MySQL, and other databases. Okay. So, question. And in order to switch to one of the databases, I will say use. So I can say use C9, and then now I'm inside the C9 database, and to see what tables I have, I can use show tables, and I don't have any tables now, empty tables. Okay. So you can use MySQL command to create tables, set up the column type, and blah blah blah. So I'm not going to go into that detail, but what I'm going to show you is I'm going to download a sample database. Okay. The sample database will be from MySQL the documentation page. Okay, I just searched for, I just remember the name of my database, my Sakila sample database. So it will take me to that page. Okay. And then I can go to the installation, and I can go to that page. So I have a handout that I will post to my website for all the details here. So I'm going to download the WorldX database. Okay. So I just need to know the URL. I'm going to right click and then copy the link address. So I know the URL. So once I have the URL, I can go back to my virtual machine console. I want to quit from my SQL shell. I just type wget. Okay. If I know the URL of a certain file, I can use wget, webget to download the file. So just copy and paste. So and I will see a new directory in here, a new file. So the new file is world underscore x db targ gz. So I can uncompress. I want to uncompress xffz, the name of my database, my compressed file. And after I uncompress, and I will get a new directory, and that directory has 2 files, the README and the SQL query. So if I open the SQL query, it will be like a long file. So this will set up 2 tables. Okay. So yeah, so you're familiar with my SQL, I assume. And after I have the table, the zip file uncompressed, so now I can feed my SQL command to my SQL shell. So let me just first go into the directory. Okay, so now I'm inside that directory, and I will run my SQL again. I'm using my username. Okay, and then instead of typing all those commands in my SQL file, I just use the source command to run everything from my file, and you will just say the name of the file, which is worldx.sql. Okay, I just want to highlight here that I'm doing my SQL from inside that directory. So I already inside that directory, and I'm running the MySQL shell. And if I do the source command, semicolon at the end, it will run all the lines inside world X SQL, and I can now quit. Okay. Question so far? Actually, I don't want to quit because I want to show you the tables. So I can now say show databases. So now I have a new database, world X at the bottom. Okay. So you can switch to that database. You say use world X. Okay. So now I'm inside that database, and you can say show tables. So we have two tables, country and country language. If you want to see the structure of the table, you can say describe country. So we know that the table has 4 columns: code, name, capital, and code 2. So let's say I want to show all name and capital. I can just say select name, capital from country. And it will give me all the entries in my file, 200 of them, 239 records. Wait, question so far? So now we have the web server running, we have the MySQL running. Now the next step is how do you connect from PHP? So how do you connect from PHP? Okay. So in order to connect from PHP, you need to use MySQL I, and you will see the detail in my handout, in my slide. But let me create a new PHP file. And let me exit from here. So the name of the table is country. Let me write it down. Table, country, and we have 4 columns, and the columns are describe country. The columns are code, name, capital, and code 2. I don't know what code and code 2 are, so it's not really important for now. So now I'm out of the MySQL shell. So let me go back to my workspace, and I'm going to create a new file. And let me call it dbtest PHP. Okay, so I can open, and I can just run a PHP script in here. So to connect, is the font big enough? So to connect to a local local MySQL database, you can use this class MySQLi. Okay, and MySQLi takes 4 arguments. The first argument is the host name. So the host name is just localhost. Let me put a comment in here. Host name. And the second argument is, I think, your user ID. Okay, and then the next one is your password. No password, just leave it blank. And then the 4th argument is the name of your database. And the name of our database is worldx. Okay, so at this point, you can check if there's an error or not. But I think I just want to show you, if you don't remember what variable to check, what property to check, we can just get help from print R, so the print resource, okay? And save it. I just press Control S. Now, if I switch to my Firefox, and if I just run db test from my Firefox, instead of hello world, db test, then it will run the PHP script that we just had, and it will give me the output of print R db, and it's hard to read. Probably I want to format the output to pre-formatted text. What tag I want to use in my HTML? Anyone? Just pre, right? So pre is like just plain pre-formatted, basically. So, and you can see the difference between this output and pre-formatted. It is easier to read. So no error, but this output will tell you what properties, what keys. Because remember in PHP, arrays are associative arrays, right? And so we have an array with, I don't know how many entries there, maybe 15 or 17, okay? But the keys are here. So affected rows is a key, connect arrow number is a key, so and so on and so forth. So the first thing that I usually do is to check whether the connection is successful or not, and I can check that by using connect arrow number, okay? So I can now say if db, okay? So the arrow notation is to go to a certain property in your associative array. And then we do have like an error number, right? What is the name again? Connect error number. So I want to check for that key. So then I will say connect error number not equal to 0. Then I will say I cannot continue, just exit error in DB connection, something like that. And if you want to see the detail of the error message, you can use the error connect error, not error number, but what is the field? The other one. Connect error. Instead of the number, you will get the string. Okay, else I can say printf, yes, connected. Okay, question so far? Save it and then switch back to Firefox. Just restart Firefox. Oh, missing something. Unexpected error, line 13. Forgot to close my curly brace, line 13. Line 13 is here.
Misses semicolon.
Misses semicolon, yes, thank you. Yep, go back to Firefox. Control R, yes. So we still see the same output from the debugging output, right? So probably now I don't have to use the print R anymore. I can just comment out the print R. But let me show you what happened if I made a mistake. Let's say I made a mistake in typing my user ID or typing the host name. So let me intentionally make a mistake in my user ID. Let's see what happened. And then Control R again. Yeah, so then this is the detail of the error. Access denied and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so you can use that for debugging purpose. Okay. So let me fix that back. So now inside my else, I'm connected. So now I can start running SQL query. So let me run the query for this table. And how do I run the query? You can just say db, and then query, And then the query string goes inside the parentheses. So you can say select, maybe just name and capital from the table name, country, and then it will list all of them. Okay. And then how do I check? Again, you can keep that into a variable. I call it, maybe let me call it result. Okay, or query or whatever. Query result, whatever variable name you want to use. And then again, I can use print R again. That will help you in debugging as well. Okay, so let me run. Again, switch back to Firefox, Control R. Yeah, looks like we don't have any error because it tells you how many rows I have. 2 columns, field count is 239 rows. So it looks like the query is successful. Okay, and let me again show you what happened if I made a mistake. Let's say I misspelled the word from. Okay, misspelled the word from. If I run again, connect it, and then it doesn't run, probably because an exception in here. Okay. So now, how do I fetch the entries? How do I fetch 200 something rows? So I can use I can fetch each row. So once I have the handle, so I call this a handle. So once I have the handle to the query, you can call other functions from your query. You can use a fetch function. There are many different variants of fetch, but the result is again an associative array, and one of the function is to fetch entries by entries, row by row, as if you're retrieving items from an associative array, and you can run it in a loop. Right? So that will run in the loop, and then I can just now print. Okay, I can just print. So you're familiar with printf, right? No? Yes? Okay. So I'm going to print the 2 columns code and name as a string, %s. I want to put a new line on every output. And then from here, okay, whenever I do a fetch associate, I want to keep the result into another variable. So let me call it row. Okay, because then I'm going to use row to fetch individual column of my table. And then from here, I will say row. The name of the column is code. And then the second column is row. The name of the second column in my table is capital. Okay? So basically that's it. So I will fetch each row and then run to a loop and then print all of them. So if I go back to my Firefox, run the PHP script again. What's wrong?
Oh yeah, percent.
Oh, percent. Yes. Thank you. That's more than pair programming. Control R, yeah. Up. I should see the capital, right? Okay, so the output.
Didn't you want to pick name in capital, not code in capital?
Yeah, you're right. Code. Yes, thank you. Name and capital. Thank you. Yeah, because the 2 columns are. Oh. What am I doing? Oh yeah, name and capital. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so go back to Firefox, run again, Control R. Yeah. So name, capital. Oh, I know now. I think capital is just a number. So let's look at the table again. Let's look at the table. And I think I want to use name and maybe code and name. Yeah, because capital is just like an integer, right? Doesn't make sense. So I want to print code and name instead of capital. So code and name, not capital. Code and name, let me fix that. So code and name, and then I can probably I want to start with code in my first column and then name in my second column. Okay, so go back to Firefox and then Control R, Command R, not Control R, yeah. So the first column is the 3-letter code, and then the second column is the country name. And of course, maybe you want to format that into a table. Okay, so how do I do that? If I want to format the output into a table, so if I remove the pre and close pre at the beginning, what do I do to format the output into a table? Anyone? So without the pre and pre, this is what you get, right? Okay, so how do I format the output into a table? What do I need to change here? Okay, the good thing is you don't have to write a complete HTML. You just need to write the table tags. Okay, so what should I do before the while loop? What do I want to print here? Table, yeah. Okay, because remember PHP will generate HTML strings, right? That's the use of PHP, to generate just HTML strings. Okay. Okay. Before you lost what I'm saying here, remember this is the idea of PHP. Okay. Whatever output you generate from PHP should be just HTML string that will be parsed later by your browser. Okay. So we're in the process of building the HTML string here inside my PHP. Okay, which is just a table. So in my table, I want to start with open table, and of course, after the while loop, I want to close the table using that. And maybe I want to put a heading in my table. I can say, how do I set up the heading? Table row, and then what tag?
Table data.
TH for heading. I want to use TH. Okay, TH. This is like code, country code, and then close the TH. And then the second heading is country name. Close TH, and then close the row. Okay. Now for individual row, let me zoom it in. For individual row, I do want to start with TR, close with a TR. Okay, and then the first column, I want to start with TD, table data, close with a table data, and then open another table data, close again in here. So now everything should be formatted as a table. Save, go back to Firefox, Command R. It should output 17. What's wrong with my?
Semicolon right above it.
Oh yeah, line 16, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. There we go. Command R, the table should be generated there. Okay? So, question about using PHP and MySQL together in a server, in a virtual server.